Good morning, class 10 students. This year also, we are forced to go through online classes because of COVID-19 pandemic. So today onwards, our online classes will start. First of all, let us start with the politics chapter, power share. In this chapter, we will learn in a nation, if power is concentrated in hands of only one section of society, what consequence will be there? Or if power is shared among all the social groups, what advantages will be there in the nation? So let us start with two small nations. By comparing two small nations. One is Belgium, another one is Sri Lanka. So Belgium is a European nation and Sri Lanka is an Asian nation. First of all, let us see the ethnic composition of Belgium or the social groups existing in Belgium. We know that in Belgium, three social groups are living. One is Dutch people. They are more in number, so they are majority. They are 59% of the people. Out of the total population of Belgium, 59% of the people are Dutch people. They are living in Flemish region. And out of the remaining population, 40% of the people are French people. They are living in Wallonia region. And only 1% of German people. These are total different categories of population in Belgium. So even though in the nation, Dutch people are more, they are 59%, but still in the capital city of Belgium, there is Brussels. In the Brussels, the ethnic composition, only two groups are living mainly. They are Dutch people and French people. Dutch people are only 20% and French people are 80%. So here, overall in the nation, 59% of the people are Dutch people, but in the capital city, Dutch people are only 20%. And in the nation, overall in the nation, French people are 40% and in the capital city, they are 80%. So they have, that means the French people, since they are more in the capital city, they have some more advantages. They used to get some advantages from the government. That means they have more influence in the government, they were able to get more education, more benefits, they were rich also. And because of these, since they used to get some advantages from the government, there was tension between French people and the Dutch people. Because in the nation, French people are majority, they are 59%. And even though if they are majority in the nation, still they did not get much benefit from the government. And because of that, there was tension between these two social groups between 1950s and 60s. This, we know that in a country, if there is any kind of tension, if there is any kind of conflict, that conflict will lead to bloodshed, anarchy, fight, communal violence. All this will be happened. If all these problems are happening, if such kinds of conflicts are happening, peaceful atmosphere of the nation will be lost. And there will be anarchy, there will be bloodshed, there will be violence, and people cannot lead satisfactory lives. And finally, the country may move into disintegration. Such a situation happened in Belgium during 1950s and 60s. Now let's see the condition in Sri Lanka. Here, two main ethnic groups can be seen, social groups can be seen. There is Sinhala language speakers and Tamil language speakers. Sinhala language speakers are majority because they are 74%. Tamil speakers are only 18%. And there are two types of Tamils, Sri Lankan Tamils and Indian Tamils. So Indian Tamils, we know that actually during the British period, during colonial period, many Indians moved into Sri Lanka. British people took many Indians to work in the plantations of Sri Lanka. Even after the completion of their working period, they were not able to come back, or they stayed there itself. And they become part of Sri Lankan society, and now they are Sri Lankan citizens. Or their forefathers, that means that today's that means the people who went from India to work in the plantations of Sri Lanka, their children, grandchildren their children or grandchildren still staying in Sri Lanka as Indian Tamils. These are the two. Another Tamil is Sri Lankan Tamil and one Tamil is Indian Tamil. And so majority of the Sinhala people are Buddhist people. And numerous people, they are believing in other religions, as Christianity, Muslim and Hinduism. In these religions, they are also believing. But the majority of the people are believing in Buddhism. So majority of the people in Sri Lanka is Sinhala people, they are 74%, and Tamil people are only 18%. There are two types of Tamil, Sri Lankan Tamil and Indian Tamil. And so majority of the Sinhala people are Buddhist people, and some other religions are also there in Sri Lanka. These religions are Christianity, Islam religion, and also of course Hinduism. So here now we are not able to understand. So far we know that actually during 1950s and 60s there was a tension in Belgium, but at present, what is the condition at the present in Belgium? We have no idea. In the case of Sri Lanka, also there is a possibility for conflict, because 74% of the people of Sri Lanka are Sinhala people. So if they get any advantage or any facilities from the government, of course, that will affect the minority group Tamil people in Sri Lanka. Because there is a possibility for domination of Sinhala people or our Tamil people. If there is such kind of domination of one group over another, that will lead to fight between majority and minority. If there is fight, then of course we know that peaceful atmosphere will be lost, and there will be bloodshed, and there will be violence, and country may move into disintegration. So we should deeply know what is the condition of Sri Lanka, what is the condition of Belgium. Let's see deeply about that. Now let us see another topic, majoritarianism in Sri Lanka. We know that what is majoritarianism. In a country, if there is majority and minority communities, domination of majority community over minorities can be called as majoritarianism. The influence of majority in government and using government power for the welfare of only majority community and disregarding the demands of minorities can be called as majoritarianism. Support of government towards majority, providing favor to majority only in a nation, is called majoritarianism. The supremacy or domination of majority over minorities can be called as majoritarianism. Let's see how majoritarianism happened in Sri Lanka. So in 1956, since in Sri Lanka, Sinhala people are more, because they are 74%. Since Sinhala people are more in number, Sri Lankan elected government. In 1948, Sri Lanka changed as an independent nation and changed as a democratic nation. But even though the country was a democracy, what happened in this elected government unnecessarily provided favor for only majority. That because they needed to get a vote of majority always. They needed to satisfy the majority always, and that's why government always provide preferential policies towards majority community Sinhalas. So in 1956, government of Sri Lanka made a law, an act. As per that act, Sri Lankan government declared Sinhala language as the only one official language of the country. And all the government and university jobs were provided only for Sinhala applicants. Tamil people also applied for government and university posts, but their demands were repeatedly ignored by the government for satisfying majority community Sinhala group. And that's why government and university posts were only reserved or only provided for Sinhala applicants. And the third preferential policy, a new constitution was made in Sri Lanka for fostering or for protecting or developing Buddhism only, because Buddhism is the religion of majority community Sinhalas. And so for satisfying the majority community, for protecting and developing Buddhism, Sri Lankan government made a new constitution. So these were some preferential policies Sri Lankan elected government provided towards the Sinhala community. So in such a situation, Repeatedly, the demands of Tamil people were ignored by the government. So Tamil people made some demands. And Tamil people realized the fact that none of the political parties formed by Sinhala leaders will be sensitive towards the needs and demands of Tamil people. If Tamil people wanted to get some facilities or benefits from the government, Tamil political parties should be there. The Tamil leaders also started to create some political parties, and through these political parties, they started to make demands to the government. They made 3 demands. One demand was actually, along with Sinhala language, Tamil language also must be declared as official language. That means 2 official languages should be there in the country. One is, of course, Sinhala language, and another one Tamil also must be considered as official language. And second demand was actually a regional autonomy. Wherever Tamil people lived more, mainly in the north and eastern portion of Sri Lanka, Tamil people were more. In those areas where Tamil people lived, wherever Tamil people were more in Sri Lanka, in those areas, Tamil state governments should be formed. Not overall in the country, only several governments, state governments also should be there. Wherever Tamil people were more in those areas, Tamil state governments also must be formed. That is called regional autonomy. And third one, equality of opportunity. Equality of opportunity for what? For getting education and for getting government jobs. So government jobs and university was reserved for only Sinhalas. That should be avoided. That tendency, that attitude should be avoided. And Tamil people also should get opportunity for government jobs or university posts. They also should be able to get educational opportunities. These 3 were their demands. Tamil language also should be considered as official language, regional autonomy, equality of opportunity. Even though Tamil people made these 3 demands, but their demands were repeatedly ignored by the government. Their demands not accepted. And so, one umbrella organization was formed, that is called LTTE, Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam. This was also just like a political party. So it was an umbrella organization, an organization of organizations, organization of all the political parties of all the organization of all Tamil political parties of Sri Lanka. So this political party declared a civil war against Sri Lankan government. A civil war between minority and majority. So this civil war broke out in the country because Tamil people, whatever the demands they made to the government, but their demands were completely ignored always. And so under the leadership or under this organization, all the Tamil political parties united and they made a civil war in the country against the domination of Sinhala community, against the support of government towards Sinhala community. So this civil war broke out on 23rd July 1983 and it lasted till 18th May 2009. Whereas actually after Second World War, this was the nastiest war, bloodiest war in the world. After Second World War, this was the bloodiest, nastiest war in the world. Large number of people were killed and so many, the economy collapsed, their educational level collapsed, overall development collapsed because of this civil war. Peaceful atmosphere lost, people could not live satisfactory lives. All these were the consequences of this civil war. When a civil war broke out, where there were losses in both sides, not only for minority and majority also faced loss. People were killed in the side of majority and minority as well. So economy collapse, educational level collapse, overall development, social development collapse, cultural development collapse. All these were the problems of this civil war. That is why we know that actually in a country, if power is not shared, in Sri Lanka, a civil war broke out only because of the attitude of Sri Lankan government. The Sri Lankan government provided facilities only for Sinhala people, since they were majority. So when majority got more power, they tried to show their supremacy, domination over minority, and so a conflict or war broke out. In this war, bloodshed happened, anarchy happened, large number of people died, their economy collapsed, their property lost, people died, so many such kinds of problems happened, and country moved towards disintegration or towards the split. And in 2009, anyway, Sri Lankan government suppressed Sri Lankan government suppressed this civil war, suppressed the LTTE and other organizations, and Sri Lankan government recaptured power, and once again their demands, some of their demands accepted, some of the demands were not accepted. This is, we know that actually majoritarianism in Sri Lanka and Tamils demand civil war, this portion. Now let us see on another topic, accommodation in Belgium. We have seen a case in Sri Lanka when power of a nation is concentrated only in one group, very similar. The country led towards a civil war. Country moved towards a civil war, and lots of losses happened, and country totally shattered. So the Belgian leaders realized the fact that in a country if power is not shared, there will be conflict, violence, bloodshed, anarchy, and of course it will lead to the decline of the nation, destruction of the nation. And so, in order to avoid such kinds of situations, Belgian leaders took a different path. They amended the Belgian constitution 4 times between 1970 and 1993. 4 times they made amendments for giving power for all the sections of society, for accepting the demands of all the social groups. They made amendments 4 times in the Belgian constitution between 1970 and 1993. And now let's see here, as per these constitutional amendments, what changes happened in Belgium. So we have seen that in Belgium also during 1950s and 60s, some problems were there. Because of the influence of French people in the government, there was conflicts between Dutch and French people. And so, after making arrangements in the constitution or amendments in the constitution 4 times, what changes happened in Belgium? Let's see now. First of all, let's see here, equal number of ministers in central government. In Belgium's central government, there will be equal number of ministers from both the leading communities, from French and from Dutch. Equal number of ministers will be there in the central government. And the second important change happened in the administration. Many of the powers of central government have been given to state governments. Many of the powers of central government have been given to state governments. So, state governments will have their own powers, central government will have its own power. And the third one, state governments are not subordinate to central government. That means, central government, even though in a nation, central government is more powerful than state government, but still, central government cannot interfere unnecessarily in the matters of state governments. Because as per the constitution of Belgium, state governments have their own powers to decide their own matters, to solve their own problems. They have their own powers given by the constitution. So, central government cannot interfere unnecessarily in a matter of state governments. So, they are not subordinate to the central government. And in the capital city, Brussels, a separate government is formed. We know that overall in a nation, Dutch people are more because they are 59%. But still, they accepted the demands of French people, and that's why in the central government, equal number of ministers. Equal number of ministers from Dutch and French. And because of that, in the capital city Brussels, we have seen Dutch people are only 20%, French people are 80%. So, since in the central government, equal number of ministers, the demands of French people accepted by the Dutch people, the demands of Dutch people accepted by the French people in the capital city. So, in the capital city also, equal number of ministers will be there, and a separate government with equal number of ministers from both the communities. And apart from this central government and state governments, a third type of government also existing in Belgium. That is called community government. This community government can be formed by any of this community. French people, wherever French people are more, their French community government will be there. Wherever Dutch people are more, their Dutch community government will be there. And of course, wherever German people are more, their German community government will be there. This community government is dealing with the educational, cultural and language related matters. Educational, cultural and language related matters. This community government, that is the powers and functions of this community government. Now, let us see the topic why power sharing is desirable. Why power sharing is desirable? There are two main reasons, prudential and moral reasons. Prudential means by thinking carefully the gains and losses. If power is not shared, what consequences will be there? So there will be, of course, losses, there will be fight, there will be violence, there will be bloodshed, anarchy, and social harmony will be lost, peaceful atmosphere will be lost. So in order to create harmonious life, in order to create a peaceful atmosphere for all the sections of society, in order to avoid fight in the society, in order to avoid disintegration in the nation, power is needed to be shared. That is called prudential reason of power share. And moral reason of power sharing means in order to create a spirit in the minds of people, a spirit that people are living in a democratic nation. In order to encourage the people to take part in all the election-related activities or all the activities of the government, a spirit want to be developed so that people should feel that they are also, all sections of society want to feel that they are also part of the nation. So for that, power need to be shared. If power is not shared, majority only will be satisfied, minority will not be satisfied. So if they are not satisfied, they will not be enthusiastic to participate in the election and other government activities and programs. So the spirit of democracy will be lost. So to develop a spirit of democracy, what is needed? Power need to be shared. That is called moral reasons of power share. So in this topic, we need to study these two sections, accommodation in Belgium and why power sharing desirable. Just go through these sections. Now, let us study another topic, forms of power share. There are different types of power share. First of all, let's see about power sharing among different organs of government. We know that in a country's government, three organs will be there. For the smooth functioning of the government, three organs will be there. These three organs are legislature, executive, and judiciary. These are the three organs of the government. Legislature for lawmaking, executive for government's enforcing, and judiciary for protecting the laws made by the parliament or laws made by the legislature. So legislature, executive, and judiciary. So this type of power sharing can be called as horizontal distribution of power. All these three organs are placed in the same level, and so one organ can check the function of the other organ. No organ is able to enjoy unlimited power. They are always controlled by one other organ. That is why this system of power sharing is called system of checks and balances. The power of legislature can be checked by executive and judiciary. The power of executive can be checked by legislature and judiciary. The power of judiciary can be also checked by legislature and executive. One organ can check the function of another organ, whether other organs are enjoying unlimited power, whether they are violating their powers or not. These organs can check each other. That's why this type of power sharing is called system of checks and balances. One organ can check the function of another organ. Legislature can check the functions on powers and functions of executive and judiciary, whether they are functioning well or not. The same way executive can be checked, executive can check, legislature and judiciary can check legislature and executive. They are on separate powers, but they can check each other their powers. The second type of power sharing is called power sharing among different levels of the government in the nation. In our country, we have central government, state government, and Panchayati Raj. Central government is more powerful than state government. State government is more powerful than the Panchayati Raj. This type of power sharing is called vertical division of power sharing or federal division of power sharing. Here, as per the Indian Constitution, separate powers are provided for central government and state government, and because of that, even Panchayati Raj also. And because of that, one level of government cannot unnecessarily interfere in a matter of other level of government. Central government cannot interfere in a matter of state government. State government cannot interfere in a matter of central government. And because of that, they are able to enjoy their own powers. And that is why we can say that this system of power sharing is called vertical or federal division of power. And third one, power sharing among social groups. Because in a country, we know that actually in our country especially, is scheduled tribe, scheduled caste, women, such kinds of people are there. So this scheduled tribe and scheduled caste, since many years, they were treated as downtrodden people, or they were treated in a separate way. They were exploited. And so, if when our country changes as a democratic nation, in this democracy, if they are not getting extra power, what will happen? Again, harassment will continue on top. Exploitation will continue on top. And so, our government adopted a policy, or our constitutional makers adopted a policy that awaits what to be given for scheduled tribe, scheduled caste, women, such category of people. That means, in our country, during the time of election, some seat of Indian Parliament and state legislature want to be reserved for scheduled tribe and scheduled caste. And in the Panchayati Raj, some seats should be reserved for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe women and other backward class also. So from among them also representatives will be there from among scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and women also. There will be representatives in the parliament and state legislatures. These representatives will be able to raise their voice for the upliftment and protection of these weaker sections of society. So then only there will be improvement in their living conditions. Then only they will be able to lead a satisfactory and comfortable lives in a country where different other sections are living. That's why power is shared among different social groups also. And now let's see the last one. Power is shared for political parties, pressure groups and movements. So we know that actually in our country we can make political party. So here we know that around 2000 political parties are there in India. All these political parties can directly participate in the election, and when they are participate, they are getting opportunity, they are getting power to participate in the election and can create changes. If they win the election, they can be the part of legislature and they can create changes in the country. So power is available for all the parties, equal opportunity for all the political parties to depend the people, meet the people, ask the votes of the people and participate in the election, win the election and form the government. All the political parties are getting equal opportunities. And by winning the election, they can create changes in the nation. Then pressure group. Any social group which is putting pressure on the government and compelling the government to accept their demand is called pressure group. Just example, teachers association, trade union, lawyers association, farmers association, or any such kinds of group of people can be called pressure group. They are able to put pressure on the government and compel the government to accept their demands. So, in India, since our country is a democratic nation, here anybody can make a group. And this group can make a strike against the government for compelling the government to accept their demand. So, all the social groups, all such people are free in a democratic country. People are free to make such kinds of groups. People are free to make such kinds of strike against the government. So, they are also getting power in a nation, democratic nation. The same way movements. Large organizations or large number of people are making strike against the government and compelling the government to accept their demand is called movements. So movement groups are also getting opportunity, getting power in a democratic nation to put pressure on the government, to compel the government to accept their demands. So these are the different forms of power sharing. Power sharing among different organs of the government, power sharing among different levels of the government, power sharing among social groups and power sharing among political parties, pressure groups and movements. So all of you go through these topics very thoroughly.